I want to start right at the beginning, literally right at the beginning. You were born in Tropoja, which is in the far, far, far north of the country, one of the most remote parts of Albania and Europe, but one of the most beautiful as well. And I'm interested to hear, because I love this part of the world, I'm interested to hear, what was your life like as a child? What was it like growing up in that sort of place back then?
First, Tropoja ethnically is part of Kosovo. When and is the most distant part of Albania from Tirana. It faced a very difficult time in my childhood when the relations with former Yugoslavia were blocked, and also the communication of Tropoja with Tirana was blocked by car, no road, just mules or other means for having goods and merchandise in the country. So was a really very isolated. About my childhood, I grows up in a family, was not a poor one, was a family having a farm and some commercial activities. This before the collectivization. Two were my main passions. I was lucky that my sister, she was 6 years older than I, was terribly committed to me, and she taught me writing and reading at 5 years old. She also insisted for me to learn by heart all what she had to learn by heart in the school.
So she was taught and then she taught you.
The same. And she brought some small books to me. She was very, very proud with my achievements and was praising very much my achievement. I think because of this, it was somehow an initiation of my passion for books. For books. But books were difficult to be found at that time because what was published before 44 was banned. What was published after 44 were Russians, Soviet areas.
Communist propaganda.
Yeah, communist propaganda, and they were. However, after many attempts that I did myself to become a poet or a writer, I saw that my verses or my essays were coming from brain and not from the heart. We have two poets. One of them is Gjergj Fishta, a giant. The other, which is an excellent one, Ndre Mjeda. But I read it at that time that Fishta told Mjeda that your verses are coming not from the heart, but from the mind.
And do you agree? You think poetry has to come from the heart?
So it influenced me. Because I wrote poems, and I saw that it's arranged by minds, not by brain. So I decided never to write more. I wrote an essay about a very similar story, like a Corsican story, but then I saw that it was not full of emotion and soul, and I stopped and I told never. You write because you risk to become a mediocre.
But what about now? I mean, you've lived this long life
So
now.
to come, if you ask me how it happened that from such a remote area, I have had a different trip. I think books were my sword. I think books helped me. I got extraordinary help from the books. And so everywhere I did a place as a reading man, as a reading child, but I read it all the day. I was passionate. Then when I come to Tirana, I learned Russian. And there have been a lot of Russian classical literature, Dostoevsky, Chekhov, and others. And I was very happy to have occasion to read. But Russians also translated a lot at that time from other countries, including modern literature. After Russian, I learned French and later English. So my world were books. Of course, I have had no difficulties in my medical trip. In the second year because always I thought I would become, as I failed to become a poet or a writer, I thought I would become a critic, a very outstanding critic in arts and literature. So I wanted to study literature, but shifting from medicine to literature was not easy. There had been no choice at that time. You have had to what they gave to you. When I saw that it's finished my dream to study literature and become a great literary critic, then I committed to medicine. There have been two disciplines which were very convincing to me. One, human physiology. Human physiology gave such a very special knowledge about human beings, about mystery of many functions and so on and so. And next to it, biochemistry. It was let us say, a molecular level of developments. So I shifted to medicine, very, very appassionated. I've ended with good results. Because of that, they appointed me assistant in the medical college, and one of the profs insisted and asked me to work with him. He was a really outstanding cardiologist and the head of cardiological clinic. He studied in Romania, but was qualified also in Russia. And it happened to work with Lukomsky, which was, according to many data, was the physician that injected adrenaline to Stalin in order to kill Stalin. I don't know if it's true or not, but
that's quite a. But do you ever look back and think, maybe I wish I had continued down the path of writing and poetry or being a critic? Do you ever wish you'd taken a different path?
No, I never regretted that decision. No, I never regretted, because books become my world. So I read it, and I didn't regret it. I thought it was the just decision, because I saw that I was not going to become a great writer. A great writer. A mediocre, yes, but I didn't like to be a mediocre.
No, it's interesting. Now, I wanted to ask as well, you mentioned earlier you came from a family that was not wealthy, but comfortable.
Comfortable, yes.
Yes,
Traditional,
middle
comfortable.
class.
Traditional, comfortable, yes.
And I'm wondering, under communism, you lived in this really remote area and things like that, and in this family environment, but what do you remember of the hardships of communism specifically? Did it impact your life, the regime, in any way negatively?
The sufferances of my family, like almost every family in collectivization, were extraordinary. Second, my people were very conservative people, traditional. They were fighters, nationalists, because the house is in a hill, a very strategic one, aimed by enemies, but protected by their own people. So in this respect, they had not an easy life, but they have had a very proud life. They were, they felt in terrible poverty. In terrible poverty. They felt like millions of Albanians in a chronic starvation. But the family was with some name, some reputation, and some possibilities, which means they were a family with an oda. Oda was a room, the guest room.
Yes.
But it was an institution. So every night, by the fire, the head of the family have had his room full of guests, and a long debate took place every night. This family, which have had a normal life, went to a terrible life because Hoxha installed an hyper-collectivization system worse than the system is today in North Korea. We were expecting that the death of Enver Hoxha will bring a new journey to Albania. Gorbachev was installed in Kremlin. Gorbachev took many, or proclaimed many reforms. We thought that Ramiz Alia will become Albania's Gorbachev. And I think most of intellectuals thought like that.
Yes, yes.
Not all, but most.
Yes.
The first year after Hoxha, I was convinced that we were wrong. That Ramiz Alia is a kind of, one day is behave like Gorbachev, the other day like Brezhnev. And he is not, I thought that Nejmia was the real power of the country, the Enver Hoxha's wife. So I felt in real despair. And I decided to go against. But going against, never to look for power, no. The most of the most, for my dignity, for my human dignity, because we were having a duplicity in our life, that is, thinking differently and talking differently. This was very, very damaging. Conformism is a terrible disease for people. So I thought myself, I'm getting out of conformism. I followed Poles, I followed Czechs, I followed Hungarians, I followed all these dissident group requirements. I know them. I started to fight for them.
And so that leads me very well into the next question is, you were one of the founders, the founder of the Democratic Party, the first, party after years and years of a totalitarian regime. You must have had a vision as that young cardiologist, 34 years ago. And I want you to tell me, what was that vision then? And then when you look at how things are now and what's happened over those 34 years, how does it align?
You might be surprised, but my vision was toppling the dictatorship and continue cardiology.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
You didn't want to go into politics?
No, no. And there are documents for that.
Yeah, I believe you. Right?
It was occasion that I joined the students the morning of the morning of their demonstration after they met Ramiz Alia.
Yes.
I was in Italy in an international conference on biogenetics. I came back and they told me that there have been some echo that there are protests in a student city. Then I tried to inform better. In the early morning, with two of my friends, Besnik Mustafa and Kujtim Chashko, went to have a coffee in Coffee Tirana. A man came and told us students are in protests. I told them we should go join them immediately. And they agreed. And we immediately stood up and departed to join students. It was difficult because they besieged them with many military, police, and also. However, we found a narrow street. We went up to the top of their demonstration. 5 minutes later, they beat them terribly. My friend told me, now what we have to do? I told we have to go to their dormitory because there are injured people and to help them. We went. We met Azem Haidari there, their head. And we sat down with them. They told me, we asked you to come and to represent us. I represent myself, but I fully support you. You represent yourself, I represent myself, but I fully support you. I met Ramiz Alia because they asked me to free their people arrested and jailed. Ramiz, because as I have had written articles during 90s, Ramiz organized a meeting with 40 intellectuals, invited me. I have had a tough debate with him where I asked to remove from the Constitution the article of Constitution according to which the party Labour Party is hegemonious force in the country. I told the party should have what the people give to it and not by the Constitution. I joined students in order just to promote for pluralism. In 2-3 days, it was realized. Now, I went to the rally, I'm telling goodbye. I will remain always a very close friend of yours. And people were stunned, but I did what I thought. Later, that afternoon and during the night, I thought that probably it was a wrong move for 2 reasons. First, they are young people, and myself, I have had a decision. I am cool-blooded man. No one impressed me more. So I could be helpful to them. Could be helpful to orientate them and to promote their cause in a non-violent way. Second, it was Kosovo in between. I told that now Kosovo could come into agenda of the new democratic forces. I did this after I was the first to propose the foundation of the party in the evening. In the evening, when students came from Ramiz Alia meeting, I told them, now we have, after this rally, to found a party. They told me why? Because we don't know what they could do tomorrow. And we have to give the news that Albania founded the first opposition party. Although Alia accepted pluralism, but 1 week later, he stood and told the National Conference that Marxism-Leninism is and will remain the ideology of our party, but Marxism-Leninism doesn't accept opposition. This was the big problem. We went everywhere with students, founded the party, we lost what we did great, we toppled the statue of Enver Hoxha, the cult. This was a great victory. It was a high risk for civil conflict because people were armed in different districts and wanted to come and install it again in Tirana.